All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Local Media Association webinar. We're excited to have you here with us. My name is Lindsay Esses. I'm Chief of Staff for the Local Media Association and Foundation. So just a couple housekeeping items before we get started. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be shared with you directly from the AAM team either later today or tomorrow. If you have any questions, there is a Q&A box on your Zoom webinar panel. Sometimes people just put it in chat. So up to you guys on what you want to do. We will be monitoring both. In chat right now, people are putting where they're calling in from, city, state, company. So it's always nice to see everyone. So we are almost done, actually, our webinars for the year for LMA, but check out localmedia.org for the remaining ones for the rest of 2025. So with that, I will turn it over to the AAM team. Thank you guys so much for being here. Obviously, this is a hot topic of conversation, and we're excited for you to lead us through it. So welcome and thanks again.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay. And thank you everyone who's joined today to hear more about Alliance for Audited Media, our approach to responsible AI implementation and what that looks like for news media organizations. I'm Christina Meinig, and I oversee market development and new business for AAM. And joining me to co-present today is Katrina Eddy, who heads up AAM's technology assurance team. Next slide. So some of you may already know AAM, but just to do a level set, wanted to let you know more about us. We're a not-for-profit media and assurance organization, and our membership is made up of over 1,000 media companies, including magazines, business publications, and news media. We have all the major holding companies and agencies like WPP, Omnicom, Publicis, Novus, and their clients. And we also have board advisors from industry associations like the Interactive Advertising Bureau, which sets digital standards for media buying and selling. So together, our board and our members develop and agree to adhere to media audit rules and provide guidance when more transparency and trust is needed in the market. Essentially, and the media buyers want to ensure that they have the transparency into the media investments that they're making. The media channels that we audit are listed on the left side of the slide. These would include metrics like paid circulation, website impressions, newsletters that you're sending, event registrations, and more. The assurance side of our business is outlined on the right side. And as I mentioned, we work with many different organizations like the IAB. They have a tech lab that works on technical implementation of different rules. And when we work with the Trustworthy Accountability Group, which sets standards as well. And so we certify about 250 tech companies and platforms to different industry guidelines. And we work in brand safety and anti-fraud, retail media, and you can see some of the other areas there. And you can also see ethical AI is on that list, and that's where we're going to spend some time talking about today. Okay, so as I mentioned, we meet regularly with our board and our clients to understand the challenges they're facing and where more transparency and assurance is needed. And that's how these media certifications are developed. We know that AI is moving fast. We know it's not just a trend anymore. We know newsrooms are actively using AI in their day-to-day. You want to see efficiencies, perhaps find new ways to curate and create and distribute content. But we do know with speed comes a lot of questions and pressures when these new technologies are introduced. There's more regulators looking to push for guidelines. Advertisers and audiences want to know what you're doing with the tech, and they want more transparency. How is it being used? Are there safeguards to prevent any bias? How are you protecting our privacy? And do we know that the reporting is accurate? Many states are starting to propose and pass AI laws, which is kind of very disjointed, but we think, that that's going to continue as well. I think media companies, see the upside. They're asking, well, how do we adopt AI responsibly? But how do we continue to promote trust and transparency and make that front and center for our readers and for our advertisers? So Next slide here. So as companies explore new ways to leverage AI, I want to talk a little bit about the research that we're seeing. There are significant trust challenges for media organizations that are adopting AI, and these are coming from their audiences. In a brand new study this week from LMA and Trusting News, and hopefully I'm not stealing any thunder here for you, Lindsay, but their questions focused on news consumers' knowledge and use of AI, how comfortable they are with a variety of uses of AI-powered tools by the newsrooms, and transparency about when and how AI is used. The respondents indicated awareness and openness, but they also indicated discomfort about the use of AI in local journalism without having guardrails. About 99% said they want a human to be involved in the newsroom's use. And about 69% responded that a clear explanation of what AI did and didn't do would be helpful to build that trust when AI is used in journalism. And lastly, there is a strong demand for guidelines. TrustingNews.org reported in a study from July that about 62% of people want clear rules before AI is used. This shows that audiences are open to AI, but only when it's implemented with transparency and human oversight. And I think that that's a tremendous opportunity for local media to kind of lead the way, set guidelines, communicate what those are, and then begin to, earn that trust with responsible practices. Next slide. And then there's also trust on the advertiser side. Advertisers have questions about how AI is being implemented and monitored, and you may have gotten some of these questions, whether directly or through the RFI process with different advertisers. A study from the Interactive Advertising Bureau, or IAB, this year found that 70% of marketers reported at least one AI incident. They reported hallucinations, the AI generated content that's just factually incorrect, nonsensical, fabricated, as well as biased, inappropriate content, off-brand, and offensive material, you name it. So I think that, that's a big challenge for them, and also just not having the creative control and the clear understanding that all of the privacy opt-ins and the different, consents are being generated. IAB also found that only 1/3 of brands, agencies, and publishers have adopted or plan to adopt any formal governance tools. So we do expect and we do see a lot of gaps. Marketers want policies and standards, and they want to try to close that gap. And so, the last stat here, 94%, not surprisingly, they want current safeguards. They're just not enough. So the advertisers are clearly an area that needs and wants more trust and assurance. And then let's talk about local media. So I think this list of potential benefits and potential perils is really a good way to level set, to understand how local media companies are thinking about AI in their businesses and in their newsrooms. Many of you probably recognize this list from a study by the Local News Initiative and the Knight Lab at the Medill School of Journalism. They had discussions with more than 25 local news and AI experts from across the globe. So I'm not going to go through all these and read them. You guys can peruse it, but there are a lot of threats and opportunities here. And I think what it shows is that, like many new technologies, AI itself is neither inherently good nor inherently bad. And so as artificial intelligence becomes more integrated in the newsroom and workflows and business operations, media companies are under increasing pressure to be more transparent about how they're being used. So with that, AI's impact depends on this governance, this ethical use and safeguards. And so, we do have a way for local media, other publishers, tech companies to follow some ethical best practices. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go through the rest of the presentation. So this slide introduces AAM's ethical AI framework, and it's built on a foundation of 8 pillars. And just to give some background on how this was developed, we worked with our clients and the industry to get consensus on a framework and what that would look like. We needed a framework that would help organizations manage risk, protect data, and demonstrate compliance when using AI tools. Many of our news media clients actually came to us and wanted to talk about this. They were getting questions from advertisers and from their readers about how they were using AI. And so out of those conversations, the 8 pillars of our framework were born. And when you look at this comprehensively and together, they all provide a strong foundation to look at how you're implementing AI and then also bring the trust element in with your audiences and your readers and your partners. The other thing is that this really scales to any type of organization, no matter how you're using AI. It's not limited to publishers or tech companies, even agencies or advertisers can use this internally to say, what are we doing? What is our strategy? And are we following these best practices? So next, Katrina is going to walk through each of these pillars and talk a little bit more about them in detail. And we're going to show some examples about how different news media orgs are using them. So I'll turn it over to you, Katrina. Oh, you're on mute, Katrina.
All right, thanks. Well, it has to happen at least once.
Yes.
So the first pillar in our certification is ethical AI policies. So it's critical that organizations start by setting policies that will outline exactly how it's going to be used in your organization. So this, of course, shows your public commitment to being transparent, staying accountable, reducing bias, and protecting user privacy, which are all things that are followed up in different pillars within the guidelines. The other key is don't just set them and forget them. You want to make it a habit to review them regularly, make that part of your internal processes because technology changes, industry changes, regulations change, so you want to stay on top of that. With this example, we have the AP where they have their public standards posted on their site. It discloses their intent to use AI and why they're using it, and also the standards that they're setting for accuracy. Within these particular guidelines, it highlights their use of or the importance of human oversight within all aspects of content production, which we'll see later in some of the other pillars. Next, transparency and disclosures. So again, you want to take these policies and you want to make them public. As the technology improves and readers become more aware and skeptical of AI's role in the content, they want this transparency and they want to know how AI was used and in what context. Just developing a disclosure strategy that you can apply whether at a corporate level that follows for everything within your site or your content, or if it's done on a case-by-case basis, that helps your audiences better understand how it's used in producing your content. We have here a snippet from the Bay City News and their approach. Not only do they disclose publicly that they are using AI, they also talk about some of the thinking behind it and their intent for it. And what they're hoping to gain with their use of AI and building that trust with their audience and also with their advertisers and partners as well. Rights and permissions. This one is, it's a little bit into the legalese side, but you want to ensure that if there's any use of IP in the content creation, that the correct rights and permissions have been gathered. You want to make sure that there's any consent and that you essentially have permission to use this within your AI generated content. Protect your company from legal issues, but again, also, it's that transparency and reinforcing the ethical practices that your organization is upholding. We have here the Guardian. They actually have a working group that they've developed, and they've done lots of things to come up with policies and ensure their continued compliance. But one of the key things that they kept in mind when they were building these principles was that permissioning, transparency, and fair reward for the use of any content that they then repurpose for their own uses. Accountability and human oversight. This one's pretty straightforward and quite critical. It is something that comes up quite often anytime we talk about AI, is making sure that a real person looks at it and doesn't just take it at face value. So you want to keep humans in the loop. Before anything is published, it should be reviewed for accuracy, fairness, and continued alignment with the standards that your organization has set forth. Within that, you want to make sure that you have clear roles and responsibilities for not only the managing the tools and the use of the tools, but also what comes out of the tools. And you want to make sure that that is carried through to any third party or freelancers that you are working with who may not be familiar with your policies. I think we've seen some instances in the press of companies getting a little bit of hot water for that. And some of that was through freelancers and third parties that they contracted with. So in this example, the Wall Street Journal has in this tool here, they provide a quick summary of the content of the article, and then below that, it says exactly what they do. So it discloses clearly that an AI tool is used to create the summary, and then, however, it was checked by a person. And then beyond that, they also give a link to how they use AI throughout their organization. So it's all kind of right in one. It ticks a couple of boxes. So you have the human in the loop piece of it covered, and then you also have a clear and concise disclosure. Pillar 5, bias, balance, and fairness. So as we know, these AI models train on a variety of online content. And if there is bias in these content or in these sources, they could be included in your content, which could, harm trust and amplify unfairness within the content across your audiences. So in this example, the Financial Times has implemented an internal checklist to ensure that these things are identified, and then also finding a way to mitigate any potential hazards or risks that come with that. So some of the questions that they include, they're listed here, but they address the risk assessment portion, data integrity, about is the data unbiased and has it been tested for fairness? Diversity, is it including multiple opinions? And then safety mechanisms. If something does go wrong, what is the plan to mitigate those errors and how they'll address them and correct them? Pillar 6, privacy and data protection. So this is again into the legal side of things, but as media companies are processing user data every day, whether it's to provide personalization, customization, even just logging into the website to access your content. AI, especially when there's third parties involved, it's a new exposure point to your users' privacy. So what you'll want to do is, obviously strengthen these tools and ensure that legal is involved along the way and that all of the right controls are in place. So here we have an example where Graham Media Group, they actually developed an in-house tool in order to streamline their workflows. So this allows employees to leverage AI without relying on third-party platforms, which puts your data at risk when you're reaching out to outside sources and using that to develop content. This statement discloses how they handle the personal data in the context of AI and ensuring that anything that's used to train its own algorithms or personalized content is managed in compliance with legal oversight and also in alignment with their internal privacy policies. Training and education. As we see, AI technologies are developing quite quickly. And with that, best practices need to evolve along with it. So regular training. So training your all the users all users within your teams of what your company's policies and standards are, and as those evolved, continually train your employees as well. So we have an example here of where Radio Canada, they have a comprehensive AI literacy program within their company that provides a foundation for its staff about understanding and implementing AI. They also, one of the neat things they did is they have a cross-functional group that pulls in developers, analysts, journalists to meet and discuss developments in the AI space and share ongoing projects or ideas. So with this, they've trained, I think, more than 172 staff. So it's quite an undertaking and quite important for ensuring consistency and transparency across all of your staff. And our final pillar, which is kind of the big one, risk management. It's kind of why we're all here, making sure that we manage any potential risks. So good AI governance starts with a clear plan for managing the risk. You want to build principles into your existing policies and, again, ensure that you have accountability. Assigning somebody who is responsible for the oversight keeps everything transparent and keeps things functioning the way that you intend them to do. And then again, you also want to keep the process dynamic. Regular reviews, feedback loops. You can identify issues early and then be able to adapt as the technology evolves. USA Today, again, and we have another cross-functional council on AI. They meet regularly to monitor regulatory changes when you have with legal laws, whether it's international or within the US, as we know that can be a bit of a patchwork. They oversee implementation of AI so that innovation doesn't outpace their ethical standards and the policies that they have in place. They continue continual training to their staff. And also it just ensures that they are allowed to grow without, again, sacrificing any of their internal guidelines and policies. All right, so with all that, we need an action plan. How on earth do we implement these ethical AI pillars? So it's not just about the tech, it's about, structure and trust. So, this is one proposal for how, how you can begin implementing. So you'll want to form an internal AI committee. Start by bringing the right voices together: editorial, tech, legal, leadership. Having that cross-functional group will help guide decisions and keep ethics front and center and ensure that whatever changes are consistently applied and applicable and useful for each component of your organization. You'll want to draft core policies and usage guidelines, define what's okay and what's not okay. Clear rules and accountability helps everyone fit AI into their workflow. Develop a disclosure strategy. Audiences want the transparency. Decide how and when you'll tell readers that AI was involved in content, again, whether it's on a case-by-case basis or as an organizational overarching policy. Establish that human side into your workflows. And AI can assist, but humans must review and approve and do those cross-checking. You'll want to make sure there's checkpoints involved and that there is a plan in case something makes it through that isn't exactly how you wanted it to be. Training. Implement training, ongoing training, making sure everyone knows best practices and potential risks. And then again, review these risks regularly. As things evolve, you'll want to make sure that you stay on top of it and update all your processes and things as needed. With that, I hand it back over to Christina.
Yeah. Thank you, Katrina. I know that was a lot. That was the very quick run through of 8 pillars. Obviously, there's a lot behind those, but I think Katrina obviously did a good job of kind of walking through what those are and how they're being implemented in different ways in different organizations. So I think that last slide about the action plan is really important as you consider where you're at in your AI journey and what you've done internally and how you've communicated to all of the stakeholders internally and externally. And we know that AI is just going to continue to transform media. And, we believe as an organization and our members that make that up, that trust is really the currency, that keeps us going. Trust keeps your audiences reading your news, buying your products, and keeps your advertisers engaged and giving you their investment. Your readers and your advertisers are not going to stop asking those questions about how is AI being used, what safeguards are in place to prevent the bias and protect my privacy. And can we trust any outputs that are coming out of a platform or journalism, and what do we do with that? So I think, and this is where we have a little bit of a shameless plug for AAM's ethical AI certification, but we do try to answer those questions, and we want you to be able to answer those questions with confidence. So, number one, the program provides a standardized third-party verified framework, which demonstrates commitment of any company that's going through it to commit to responsible AI practices. The value of the certification is that you're making this commitment to build trust, and you can show that to your readers, advertisers, and partners that you're really serious about ethical AI usage and implementation. The value is also that accountability does reduce risk, and I think Katrina alluded to this in some of the framework. The framework's going to help you identify where your gaps are. It's going to help you implement best practices that you may not have thought about, or you're not sure how to implement them. And it's going to help you stay ahead of how the industry is evolving with AI and how AI shifts, because we know that every day there's just something new in terms of how it's being used or how it's not being used the way that you had intended. So this is not just a badge, but it's a roadmap. It's a roadmap for, continuous improvement, and our certification will definitely evolve with the industry as we work with our clients and support them in the ways that they're using AI. And lastly, independent verification from a third party, not-for-profit, really does set you apart. I saw some of our media clients on the call list, so thank you for being part of AAM. But if you're not familiar with us, the AAM is going to look at all of your business processes and standards, and we're going to give you that seal of credibility that does differentiate you in a competitive market. And that is, a value of independent verification. And I think it matters because advertisers do want to protect their media investment, and they want to trust working with you and your company. They want to trust when they run their advertisers on your website or in your, print publications. And readers want to assure, that you're delivering that credible, trusted journalism and protecting their privacy at the same time. So if you do have any questions on the framework, obviously feel free to reach out to Katrina or me, and we would be happy to walk through it with you. And then lastly, on our last slide, big thank you to Lindsay and everyone who's joined today. I hope you learned something. Please be sure to check out the QR code. That will take you to a resources page on AAM's website. We have an expansive list of resources that aligns with each of the pillars of the framework. And you'll see stuff there from Pointer, Trusting News, ONA, NMA, and many more. And we'll continue to update that as well as we, find and work with the organizations that want to add to this, to what we're doing with the best practices and the certification. So with that, I think we hit the 30 minutes, Lindsay, and if there's questions, we can take
Yeah,
those.
there's two questions. I put one in chat and then there's also another one. So if you can take the time to answer and that's totally fine.
Okay. Question, risk management, maybe Katrina, this is for you. What is the example of a feedback loop that helps address risks?
Yeah, so it can take many shapes. I think a lot of that initially comes with monitoring. So being aware and having alerts when there is an issue identified, whether it's from having like a dedicated email address or a website where somebody can come to you and identify something. And then from there, it's really just having the right people in place to evaluate and assess where the error took place, and then pulling together the teams, whether through a working group, cross-functional, or just having that communication within different partners internally to address and figure out essentially what went wrong and how you can fix it going forward. And then again, it's continuing to evolve and improve those processes. So there isn't quite like a one size fits all, but it's really being able to identify what went wrong, why it went wrong, and then who is going to who can help fix it and how to ensure that it doesn't happen going forward.
And then PowerPoint. Yeah, we can send the PowerPoint or post it, whatever you prefer, Lindsay.
Yeah, you can send it when you send the recording. I think that would be
Okay.
best.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Any other ones?
Yep, hold on, I see one more.
Oh.
Oh, nope, that one you answered live. Okay.
Ah,
And yes, you guys
yes.
will send information about AAM when you send out the PowerPoint and the presentation, because I see there's a question about pricing.
Yeah, so pricing, so typically the pricing for the certification, it's a custom price. We meet with you, we establish kind of the complexity of your organization and figure out kind of where you're at in the process, and then we'll give you a price based on the time that it's going to take for us to complete the certification. So if you do want a price, contact me, one-on-one, and we can talk through that.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you to our presenters. As we said, the presentation and the recording will be distributed in the next day or two. It takes a little bit of time to process. And we look forward to seeing you all at a future LMA webinar, and have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.